The Search, a Study Guide by Neville Goddard. The Search by Neville Goddard is about man's search for himself, his search for purpose and happiness and true alignment. And as you read this book, you begin to look at yourself and you begin to have some introspection. And you look at your journey in life and you begin to ask yourself, what has been my catalyst for motivation? What has been the driving force moving me towards happiness? Now, for many of us, we place a lot of stock in the outside world, in the outer things. And we believe that the more that we invest in material world, the more we'll be rewarded with happiness. Therefore, the catalyst driving us is the material. But to invest in anything but yourself is futile, as you are the root of everything, right? And as you shift your attention off the outer world, and you start to put that attention onto self, you begin to realize that as you shift and change, your outer world experiences will shift and change to reflect who and what you're becoming. So I put together the study guide here with some quotes from Neville Goddard and the quotes that resonated with me in hopes that it would resonate with you. And as we reflect on these things, and as we meditate on these things and as we speak to these things, we really want to question where we put our energy. Are we leading with what we've been taught and programmed to believe will bring us happiness? Because, from as early as I can remember, the message has been the more you acquire, the more you'll be free. But as you shift your consciousness and awareness, you'll know that the search for freedom and happiness is an inward journey, which is reflected outwards, not an outward journey that's reflected inwards. So the first quote right here by Neville Goddard states, "My mystical experiences have convinced me that there is no way to bring about the outer perfection we seek other than by transforming ourselves. As soon as we succeed in transforming ourselves, the world will melt magically before our eyes and reshape itself in the harmony with that which our transformation affirms." There's no way for us to bring about this outer perfection that we seek other than transforming ourselves. And many of us are under this belief that the goal is right in front of us, that material thing, right? It's in arm's reach. And to acquire it is going to take some time and effort and persistence and hard work and consistency. And once I get that thing, whatever it may be, I'll be happy. But then until then, I won't be as satisfied or as happy or as fulfilled, or as content as I would be had I achieved that goal. And, we have to understand that this is a belief, right? So if I subscribe to this belief, then I'm probably going to put all my attention onto the chase. And then, as we know, my energy goes where my attention is, right? Energy flows where your attention goes. So all my energy is spent on this material thing, acquiring this material thing. It's tied up in the chase, it's tied up in the energetics of that pursuit. And not only is my energy now tied up and correlated and connected to this material thing, but I'm also, from a mindset perspective, reinforcing this sense of lack, right? Because I believe that I'm not as happy as I could be had I received this thing. I'm not where I want to be. So vibrationally, energetically, I'm vibrating at a lower frequency as well, but I'm attracting more of what I am, not what I want to my life. Neville says, as soon as we succeed in transforming ourselves, the world will melt magically before our eyes and reshape itself in harmony with which our transformations affirm. Meaning, as soon as we transform our beliefs of where happiness originates, the world will confirm this state and it will reflect it into our world, right? So the question is, who are you becoming on this journey, right? If you set a goal that's outside of ourselves and we say, well, I must work to chase that goal, and then we wake up each day in pursuit of that goal, and we go to sleep solely focusing on that goal, and then we wake up the next day in pursuit of that goal, what's motivating us is lack, right? So it's the lack that's motivating us every day to pursue something that's outside of ourselves. So unintentionally, we're kind of strengthening the fact that we are not what we desire. And when the prime motivator is based on lack, then we create space for doubt to creep in, right? We question, well, okay, how long is this going to take before I get what I want? And, why is what I'm wanting taking so long? And perhaps I need to work harder. Perhaps I need to sacrifice more. I need to do more activities to get what I want, right? We start to see time as an obstacle. Well, there's not enough time and I'm running out of time. And well, how can I fit more things into my schedule? And because of this, now I feel like I'm late. I'm behind the schedule. I should have done this earlier. I'm wasting time, right? And these thoughts can lead to overwhelm or frustration or burnout or stress, and when we're in this state, our energy becomes fragmented, right? Because we start to identify with the lower vibrational frequencies, such as doubt and fear, right? But we're also putting most of our energies into the material world, right? Like our energy that can be used to raise our vibration is being occupied by the outer world where we put our energy into, right? And we want to be inwardly led, knowing that the world will melt magically before our eyes and reshape itself in harmony with that in which we transform or our transformation affirms. And our transformations are how we see ourselves, right? What we envision for ourselves, what we imagine ourselves to be. Before any actions, you need to have this thought process and belief system that supports you through your journey, right? And those beliefs are impressed in the subconscious and they're going to be expressed and projected in your outside world. Neville states, there is no transforming power in death. And whether we are here or there, we fashion the world that surrounds us by the intensity of our imagination and feeling. And we illuminate or darken our lives by the concepts we hold of ourselves. Nothing is more important to us than our concept of ourselves. And especially this is true of our concept of the deep hidden one within us. So, what does Neville mean by this? Well, your perception of self plays out on the screen of your reality, right? Therefore, what you imagine, what you feel, what you believe, whether you desire it or not, will have the power to either illuminate your life with happiness, joy, and abundance, or darken your life with doubts and fears and insecurities. Now, I believe to know this is empowering because you begin to understand the true nature of cause and effect. And if one's outside world is incongruent with one's desires, then one's inside world must change, right? They must change their concept of self rather than changing the things in the material world that don't align with what they desire. We feel as though because we can detect things with our five senses, when things are not aligned with what we want, we must go out and change those things, right? Or the opposite happens. We feel helpless in a sense because our external world is revealing the limited options that we have. But when we understand that by raising our consciousness and awareness, the outside world begins to change, the unseen becomes seen, we understand that the precursor to change is not found in the material world or is solely determined by the amount of effort we put into outer things, but rather it's a direct reflection of investing in self and how we see ourselves and what we imagine for ourselves and what we believe, right? Like we are not here to be pawns and to be reactive to the frills of the outside world, but rather we all have purpose and we're here to channel our desires into manifestation on this earth. And when we're in alignment, we're going to encounter people, places, and circumstances that are bringing us towards our truth, towards our desires, and what we're meant to align with, what we're meant to fulfill, right? But to do so, we have to learn to dodge the noise of the outside world that's constantly bidding for our attention and bidding for your energy. We have to start seeing people, places, and circumstances as guidance. And as such, we learn to recalibrate ourselves from within. Far too often we put our inner work off because we say, well, I'm too busy. But the business will never end. There's always going to be things to do. So it's a matter of prioritizing. And when we do so, we'll know what that true satisfaction feels like because we're spending time within. And what's impressed on our subconscious is going to be expressed in our outer world and it's going to be experienced as such in our reality. Those that help or hinder us, whether they know it or not, are the servants of the law, which shapes our outer circumstances with harmony with our inner nature, right? And he's referring to the Hermetic's teachings of the laws of correspondence, which state, as above, so below, as below, so above. What's impressed in your subconscious is expressed in your outer world. And what you experience in your outside world is a reflection of what's within. So what's meant by this? Well, okay, let's discuss it from the perspective of the people, places, and circumstances that show up in your life, right? That are either congruent with what you want or incongruent with what you want, right? So in the situation where we're moving towards, say, an end goal, maybe it's to acquire more, maybe it's to acquire, receive a promotion, or to take on an entrepreneurial journey, or to make more money, right? The journey to the final destination is going to bring forth people, places, and circumstances. And these people may create obstacles towards that goal, or they may clear the path towards that goal. And depending on your level of consciousness, we may see things as obstacles that we need to run through, that we need to fight through, that we need to work harder to move out of the way, or we may see signs, symbols, and synchronicities in the situations that come up, and we may take them as guidance, moving across this bridge of incidents towards our desires, towards our final destination. When one applies the laws of correspondence, they understand that everything that you experience in life is a direct reflection of your perception of self, what you believe to be true and what you feel. Thus, when your outer world is in alignment with what you desire, you'll know. And at the same token, when your outer world is out of alignment with what you desire to manifest, you'll know because you'll experience it in your outer world. And as a result, though, you can begin to shift your focus from the outside world and start to work on the things within that will shift your experiences that you're having, right? And as you impress new beliefs, desires, and thoughts, your outer world will begin to take new shape. And you'll notice that the people, the places, the circumstances that are coming towards you are here to assist you on your journey. When you're in this space, you begin to love the journey, and you're excited to see, okay, well, who will I meet that's going to be part of this equation as I shift? You'll begin to see how everything in life is connected. And when you see that you're a part of the whole and the whole is a part of you, you begin to understand that all life experiences are meant to help you grow, right? But it all starts with you, right? And when you know this creates a sense of confidence because you're no longer reactive to life. You're not as easily lured or manipulated by the material things that we often chase. What you'll actually experience is that what you desire is actually moving towards you. It wants you as much as you want it. Neville states, because life molds the outer world to reflect the inner arrangements of our minds, there is no way of bringing about the outer perfection we seek other than by the transformation of ourselves. Neville states, no help cometh from without. The hills to which we lift our eyes are those of an inner range. It is thus to our own consciousness that we must turn as to the only reality, the only foundation on which all phenomena can be explained. And to attempt to change the world before we change our concept of ourselves is to struggle against the very nature of things, right? There can be no outer change until there is first an inner change, as within, so without. People are willing to go great lengths for what they sense with their five senses. And as a result, what they can't sense is forgotten or it's neglected, because we believe that success comes from working, and we see working as doing, taking action, keeping busy. But working is also working on self, spending time with self, lifting self, raising your concept of self, and from now, like our attitudes need to change if we want to see true change in our life, right? The invisible world of the unseen is the true reality, right? A reality more important than the visible world of the five senses, right? And that's why I say it's to the invisible world of the unseen is where the work begins. The challenge is the instructions that we've been given since we were in school has encouraged us to rely more on our five senses, on our intellect, rather than our intuition. But it's your intuition that allows you to begin the process of interchange, right? It allows you to connect with your higher self. And one way we can all do this is we can find time, quiet time, find a quiet space where you can concentrate, and when you reach an ideal state in meditation, when you're not distracted, ask the question that is troubling you, then sit and wait in peace and the answers will come, right? There's always an answer. The clarity, the answer that you receive will be there. And sometimes it really depends on your level of development, awareness, and consciousness. But it also depends on the work and time that you put into your self-growth. Everything we do, unaccompanied by change of consciousness, is but futile readjustments of surfaces. However we toil or struggle, we can receive no more than our subconscious affirms. And to protest against anything which happens to us is to protest against the law of our being and our rulership over our own destiny. Right? The circumstances of my life are too closely related to my conception of myself not to have been launched by my own spirit from some magical storehouse of my being. If there is pain to me within these happenings, I should look within myself for the cause. For I am moved here or there and made to live in a world in harmony with my concept of myself. Napoleon Hill said discipline comes to self-control. And before you can control conditions, you must control yourself, right? Because self-mastery is going to be one of the hardest things you'll ever have to tackle. And if you don't conquer self, you'll be conquered by self. And you may see at the same time both your best friend and your greatest enemy by stepping in front of the mirror. Now, we have to realize that what is within us is constantly being broadcasted out. And you could see it reflected in the mirror when you look at yourself, right? Everyone you see is a reflection of you. As the saying goes, everywhere you go, there you are. What you're experiencing is what you're producing. And when you stop blaming the outer world for your experiences, you see yourself, right? And this is why Neville Goddard said, the circumstances of my life are too closely related to my concept of myself not to have been launched by my own spirit, right? This is going to be one of the hardest things that all of us has to do, right? You're fighting against no one else but yourself, right? So we have to befriend ourselves, understand ourselves, and see what am I revealing to myself? If you're materializing negative outcomes, then what is it within you that is causing this to be manifested? And this is not something that we need to look at and be shameful out or feel guilty about, or lower our heads in posture, right? This is part of our past programming. This is part of limited beliefs, right? And once we understand this, then we can remove ourselves from this false version of ourselves, this small version of ourselves that we identified with. And we can continue our journey and start to align ourselves with what we are destined to be. And one of the ways that we can bring about the ideal state is through meditation. Intense meditation brings about a union with the state contemplated. And during this union, we see visions, have experiences, and behave in keeping with our change of consciousness. This shows us that a transformation of consciousness will result in a change of environment and behavior. A common question that comes up is, how do we get into these states that are in alignment with what we desire? Or better yet, how do we get out of our heads, which may be filled with doubt? Or sometimes even, we're so accustomed to taking the calculated approach that we look to logic and reasoning and the practical way of success. Therefore, it find it difficult to digest anything that doesn't really follow that format or what we've been told or what we are used to. And one of the things that I've found to work for me to bypass the conscious analytical mind is to drift into the subconscious state of meditation. Meditation has, for me, shifted from something that I felt was difficult because I was constantly in my head, as something that I do twice a day. And I see it as I see the direct correlation between meditation and between bringing forth the behaviors that I desire. Meditation has been a great way to slow down the need to be reactive and a way to adapt more precision, flow, and grace and ease into my life. And it's also a great way to reprogram limited beliefs from more empowering beliefs. And as your beliefs shift, you'll notice that you begin to take on new behaviors that match your new state of consciousness. Whatsoever things are lovely and of good rapport, think on these things, for we become that in which we are in rapport. Ultimately, we become where we put our attention towards. So the question is, what are you putting your attention towards? Is it towards the things that are lovely and good rapport? You think of the energy of love and the frequency that it emanates. When you're in love or you're reaching for love and you're receiving love, it's one of the highest vibrations that you have. So ultimately, we want to be in relation and in the aura of things that match that frequency of love. As soon as we succeed in transforming self, our world would dissolve and reshape itself in harmony with that which our change affirms. when you look at relationships, there is only really one relationship, right? The closer the relationship you have with yourself, the faster your true desires will be drawn onto you. Consider the entire world simply as a screen onto which you are projecting that in which you're conscious, right? And in the area of relationships, whether it be work or a romantic relationship, what you're seeing in others and receiving from others is a projection of what's inside you, right? And these are mostly unconscious thoughts and feelings that mostly have been repressed. But all energies must be expressed in some way, and repressed energy is expressed through projection, right? And if you say to yourself, well, nobody wants to make a commitment to me, or nobody wants to work with me, and no one wants to partner with me or hire me, you are also saying that you can't make a commitment to yourself. And if you don't feel worthy, then you won't be worth being committed to. You know, everyone in your life is here by the law of attraction. And whether you consider them good or bad or indifferent, they are here to help you experience yourself. And as soon as we start to shift our concept of self, we'll start to see the world reshape itself in harmony with which our changes affirm. You know, where we once encountered people and we thought, well, they're difficult or challenging and negative, we'll start to see people as accommodating, understanding, and positive. You know, where we once experienced difficulty and hardship and resistance, we'll start to experience more grace and more ease and more flow. And as Neville said, the world will reshape itself in harmony with that in which our change affirms. You know, Neville states, like Nebuchadnezzar, we shall awaken from the dream, from the nightmare in which we fought with demons, to find that we really never left our eternal home, that we were never born and we never died, save in our dream. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon who had a dream that played out as truth. And what Neville is also pointing out here is have faith in the unseen. You know, we all have access to this unseen power. And when we rely on the unseen, we can create the futures that we desire. Therefore, the two truths here are your thoughts and your imaginations have power to create your future. And the second is your truth and what you desire is not found in the material world, it's not found in the outside world, but it's found within. And as long as we continue to carve out time and make time for self, to pay attention to our thoughts, to understand how we feel, and to pay attention to where our energy goes, we can continue to live ourself and our consciousness. And as we lift our consciousness and our vibration, we'll begin to move towards what we truly desire. And we can truly make impact and not only help ourselves, but help others as we move towards what we want. But if we misplace our energy and if we search for growth outside of ourselves and we invest in the title and the job and the money and the material, we would have missed the mark because we would unconsciously place our energy in the wrong places. And when those things disappear, we will notice that we're still in lack. True change happens from within. And as long as we put our energy inwards, we would have found what we're looking for. Thank you. Please feel to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again.